A heart-wrenching story of the cruel twists of fate and the ruthless nature of human emotions. Saeed and Zubeda's tale of love turns to ashes in the fire of Zarina's hatred and jealousy. This is a story that will immerse you in the depths of human relationships and keep you hooked till the end. A gripping narrative of love, betrayal, and revenge that will stir your soul. Loss of honor. I have read strange stories in history about the twists of fate. Kings becoming beggars and beggars becoming kings. Fate is an enigma. Women scavenging in the streets suddenly sit on golden thrones, while those who once commanded fate's obedience become prey to vultures. But what I went through is unparalleled. When I recall those events, my skin crawls, and I wonder why and how I am still alive. Beauty is the source of desires. Did I not have desires? But alas, they were crushed in the ruthless hands of fate. How could I have known that the man who worshipped every gesture of mine would one day humiliate and destroy me? It has been 3 years since I entered this house, which was a flourishing garden at that time. I was the nightingale of this garden, flying in the air, chirping on the branches, and sleeping on the flowers. Saeed was mine, and I was his. We played the game of love by this marble pond. "You are my life," he would say. And I would reply, "You are my beloved." Our property was vast. We had no worries, no sorrows. Life was a continuous spring for us, where wishes bloomed, and happiness laughed. The world moved according to our desires, the heavens wished us well, and fate was our companion. One day, Saeed came to me and said, "My love, I have a request for you. Please do not let a word of refusal come from your smiling lips. I want to transfer all my wealth and property in your name. For me, your love is enough, it is the greatest blessing. I wish to erase my existence and live as a beggar at your door. You become my Noor Jahan, and I will be your Salim, living off the cups of your coral-like hands." My eyes filled with tears. Happiness, at its peak, turned into drops of tears. But not even a year had passed when I began to notice a change in Saeed's demeanor. There was no quarrel or bitterness between us, yet he was no longer the Saeed he used to be. The man who couldn't bear to be apart from me for a moment was now absent for entire nights. The excitement of love was no longer in his eyes, nor was there thirst in his gestures or warmth in his temperament. For a few days, this coldness made me cry a lot. The memories of our love tormented me. I had read that love is eternal. Could it have dried up so soon? Alas, no. He was now watering another garden. Eventually, I, too, began to avoid Saeed, not out of hatred, but because I could no longer bear to meet his eyes. Seeing him would remind me of countless moments of love, and my eyes would fill with tears. My heart still yearned for him, and sometimes, uncontrollably, I wanted to fall at his feet and say, "My love, why this cruelty? Have you turned away from me? What wrong have I done?" But this pride would always stand like a wall in my way. Gradually, jealousy replaced love in my heart. The patience of despair brought me peace. Saeed was now just a forgotten song of a past spring. The warmth of my heart had cooled, the lamp of love had extinguished, and not only that, his honor had also left my heart. The man whose temple of love was tainted was no longer worthy of my sacrifice. One evening, I was lying on my bed, reading a story when suddenly a beautiful woman entered my room. It seemed as if the room lit up. Her radiant beauty illuminated the walls, as if they had just been whitewashed. Her adorned splendor, her blooming, flower-like face, and her intoxicating sweetness filled me with awe. My pride in my beauty crumbled to dust. I was astonished as to who this woman was and how she came here. I got up involuntarily to meet her and ask, but Saeed entered the room with a smile. I understood that this woman was his lover. My pride awakened. I did get up, but with my head held high, and instead of the awe of beauty, hatred filled my eyes. To me, this woman was no longer a goddess of beauty but a poisonous snake. I sat back down on the bed and opened the book in front of me. The woman stood for a moment, looking at my pictures, then left the room. As she left, she glanced at me, her eyes blazing with anger, showing the red hue of revenge. A question arose in my heart: why did Saeed bring her here? To break my pride? The property was in my name, but that was just an illusion. Saeed had full control over it. Even the servants considered him their master and often treated me with insolence. I was passing my days in patience. When there were no more desires in the heart, why would there be pain? It was the month of Sawan, monsoon, dark clouds covered the sky, and it was drizzling. The darkness of jealousy and hatred enveloped the garden, and the twinkling fireflies on the trees seemed as if sparks were flying from their mouths. I watched this spectacle of jealousy for a long time. The insects would glow together and fade together, as if waves of light were bursting forth. I also felt like swinging and singing. The atmosphere often casts a spell on hearts filled with jealousy. There was a round bungalow in the garden. I went there, had a swing hung in the porch, and started swinging. I realized that even in despair, there is a spiritual pleasure, which only those who are content with their desires can understand. I started singing Malhar with great enthusiasm. Sawan is the month of separation and sorrow. The song narrated the tale of a heartbroken soul in such painful words that tears involuntarily began to fall from my eyes. Just then, I saw a lantern's light outside. Saeed and the beautiful woman were approaching. The woman came to me and said, "Tonight, there will be a gathering here with music and dance, and rounds of wine." I replied with disdain, "Congratulations." She said, "We will sing Baramasa and Malhar. The musicians are coming." I replied, "With pleasure." She added, "Your heart will burst with jealousy." The woman glared at me with her red eyes and said, "I don't even consider you worthy of the dust on my feet." I could no longer control myself and said proudly, "And what do I consider you?" "A mere dog, scavenging on others' leftovers." Saeed's expression changed. He looked at me with terrifying eyes and said, "Zubeda, are you possessed by a devil?" Saeed's words pierced my heart. I was shattered. The lips from which I had always heard words of love and affection now spewed venom, and without any reason. Have I become so worthless and lowly that even a common woman can insult me and I am forbidden to speak? The fever that had been brewing in my heart for a year erupted. I got off the swing and looked at Saeed with a gaze full of complaints and said, "Whether the devil is in me or in you, you can judge for yourself." "Saeed, I always considered you honorable and noble, but today you proved otherwise. I was indeed hurt by your unfaithfulness, but I never imagined even in my dreams that you would be so devoid of honor that you would humiliate me for the sake of a shameless woman. God will punish you for this." The woman angrily said, "You dare call me shameless?" I replied, "Of course, I do." Saeed asked, "And I am dishonorable?" I said, "Absolutely. Not just dishonorable, but a fraud, a liar, and a sinner." These words are harsh, but they are not enough to express my anger. As I was saying this, suddenly Saeed's tall, strong servant grabbed my arms, and in the blink of an eye, the woman untied the swing's ropes and bound me to an iron pillar in the porch. I don't remember what thoughts were going through my mind at that moment, but everything went dark before my eyes. It felt as if these three were not human but demons. Fear replaced my anger. If some powerful force had come and freed me from my bonds, given me a sharp dagger, I would have done nothing but sit on the ground and weep over my disgrace and helplessness. I thought perhaps this punishment had been decreed by God for me. Maybe it was a punishment for my sins. I began to review my past life, wondering what wrong I had committed to deserve this. The three of them left me in that condition and went into the room. I thought my punishment was over, but would they leave me bound like this? If the maidservants saw me in this condition, what would they say? No, I was no longer fit to live in this house. I was wondering how to untie the ropes, but little did I know that what had happened so far was just a prelude to the coming cruelties. I had yet to realize how ruthless, how murderous that little man was. I was debating in my mind whether this disgrace was my fault. If I had not responded to the woman's taunts, would this situation have arisen? Yes, it would have, certainly. That black snake had come with the intention of biting me, and that's why she had started the conversation in such a hurtful tone. She wanted me to react in anger, insult her, and give her a reason to humiliate me. The rain intensified, drenching my entire body. The darkness ahead was deep. I was straining to hear what was happening inside, but the sound of the rain muffled everything. Suddenly, the lantern appeared in the porch again, and the three terrifying figures stood before me once more. This time, the blood-drinking woman held a thin whip in her hands. Seeing her demeanor, my blood froze. There was a murderous madness in her eyes. She looked at me with mischievous eyes and said, "Begum Sahiba, I want to teach you such a lesson for your sharp tongue that you will remember it for the rest of your life. And my guru has taught me that nothing teaches better than a whip." Saying this, the cruel woman struck my back with the whip. I squirmed, feeling as if a burning ember had been placed on my back. I couldn't hold back any longer. My parents had never even hit me with a flower stem. I started crying loudly, with all my pride and shame gone. The horrifying reality of the whip had erased all other emotions. Perhaps the hearts of those Hindu goddesses who jumped into the fire to protect their honor were made of iron. At that moment, the only thought in my mind was how to escape this torment. Saeed stood silently like a statue. I looked at him with pleading eyes and said in a beseeching tone, "Saeed, for God's sake, save me from this cruel woman. I will fall at your feet. Give me poison, cut my throat with a dagger, but I cannot bear this torment. Remember our past love, remember my love, and save me from this torture. God will reward you for it." Saeed was moved by my words. He looked at the woman with frightened eyes and said, "Zarina, for my sake, let her go now. Have mercy on her for my sake." Zarina replied angrily, "I can do anything for your sake, but I can't tolerate insults." Saeed asked, "Do you think she hasn't been punished enough?" Zarina replied, "Did you value my honor? I have made queens carry hookahs for me, and this Begum Sahiba is nothing in comparison. Even if I cut her with a knife, it wouldn't be enough to punish her for her sharp tongue." Saeed replied, "I can't watch this cruelty any longer." Zarina said, "Close your eyes then." Saeed warned, "Zarina, don't provoke me. I am telling you to forgive her now." Zarina looked at Saeed with such contemptuous eyes as if he was her slave. God knows what spell she had cast on him that he had no sense of his family's honor, his greatness, or humanity. She probably didn't even consider him capable of feeling anger. Those who judge by appearance often make mistakes because what they see on the outside is not what is inside. So much cruelty, so much ruthlessness hidden behind such a beautiful face. Indeed, appearance is the enemy of the art of knowing people. She said, "So now you are getting angry with me. Why not? After all, you married her, didn't you? I am just a shameless dog." Saeed replied, "You keep taunting me, and I can't bear to see this bloodshed." Zarina said, "Then take this whip in your hand and strike her 100 times. Your anger will subside, that's the only cure." Saeed replied, again with the joke. Zarina replied, "No, I'm not joking." Saeed reached out to take the whip, but for some reason, Zarina suspected that he might break the whip and throw it away. She pulled it back and said, "So now you are trying to deceive me. Well, let me show you my skill with the whip." Saying this, the merciless woman began to beat me ruthlessly with the whip. I writhed in pain, crying out in agony. I fell at her feet, begged for mercy, regretted my words, offered prayers, invoked saints and prophets, but the killer showed no mercy. Saeed stood there like a wooden puppet, watching this scene of pain and suffering with dry eyes. Perhaps even my worst enemy would have felt pity for me in that condition. My back was torn, bleeding, with wounds opening up, and every strike of the whip felt like a burning flame on my body. I don't know how many lashes she gave me until the whip itself took pity on me and broke into pieces. The wooden handle broke, but the human heart remained unmoved. After humiliating and destroying me like this, the three evil souls left. Saeed's servant untied my ropes before leaving. Where could I go? How could I step foot in that house again? My entire body was covered in sores, but the wounds in my heart were far more painful. My heart was filled with blisters, leaving no room for good feelings. At that moment, if I saw a blind man falling into a well, I would have laughed. If I heard the heart-wrenching cry of an orphan, I would have mocked them. My heart had undergone a tremendous transformation. I no longer felt anger, sadness, or even the desire for death. Even the desire for revenge had disappeared. That extreme humiliation had extinguished the desire for revenge. Although I could have legally brought Saeed to justice, made him suffer for every penny, this dishonor, this disgrace, this humiliation was beyond the realm of revenge. Only one feeling remained, a consciousness of humiliation. I was forever dishonored. Could this stain ever be erased? Certainly not. Yes, it could be hidden, and the only way to do that was to fall into the dark pit of disgrace so that the darkness of the clothes would hide this black stain. Wasn't the wilderness better than a house with a broken floor? In this state, this thought overwhelmed me. I resolved to complete my ruin, deepen my humiliation, and darken my already dark face. I lay there all night, groaning in pain and struggling with these thoughts. This fatal decision grew stronger every moment. No one in the house took any notice of me. At the break of dawn, I left the garden. I don't know where my modesty and shame had disappeared. Someone who has drowned in the sea has no fear of lakes and ponds. I, who once shied away from walls and doors, was now walking fearlessly through the streets of the city. Where honor is valued, where no one laughs at anyone, where the market of disgrace is open, where modesty is sold, and shame is looted. On the third day, I was sitting on a high terrace in a good part of the beauty market, watching the market sights. It was evening, and the street below was so crowded that people's shoulders were brushing against each other. Today was the Savan fair, and people were walking in rows, dressed in clean clothes, towards the river. Our market's most precious goods were also displayed by the riverbank today. There were swings for the beautiful women, and somewhere, the songs of Savan's friends. But I found this market's view more enjoyable than the riverbank. It seemed as if all the other streets in the city were closed, and only this narrow lane was open, with everyone's eyes fixed on the terraces, as if they were not walking on the ground but wanted to fly in the air. However, I didn't find the educated people to be as bold. They also stared, but from the corners of their eyes. The middle-aged men seemed the boldest, perhaps wanting to show the vigor of their youth. The market was like a long, wide theater, where people made jokes and laughed to enjoy, not for their own pleasure, but to amuse the beauties above. Their faces were turned in one direction, but their eyes in another. It was a gathering of jesters and mimics. Suddenly, I saw Saeed's carriage. I had taken many rides in it. Saeed, dressed smartly, was sitting upright. There wasn't a more handsome, dashing young man in the entire city. His face exuded masculinity. His eyes briefly glanced at my terrace and then dropped. His face turned ashen, as if he had been bitten by a poisonous snake. He said something to the coachman, and the carriage vanished in an instant. Seeing him at that moment gave me such a vengeful satisfaction that the deadly pain I had endured seemed insignificant. I had been disgraced, but I had disgraced him in return. This dagger was far sharper than the whip. He no longer had the courage to meet my eyes. No, I had defeated him, imprisoned him in a lifelong cage of shame. There was no escape from this dark cell, for he was too proud of his family's honor. The next morning, I heard that someone had murdered Mirza Saeed. His body was found in that round room in the garden, with a bullet wound in his chest. By 9 o'clock, there was another piece of news: someone had also killed Zarina the night before. Her head had been severed from her body. Upon investigation, it was discovered that Saeed himself had committed both murders. He had first killed Zarina at her house and then returned home to shoot himself. This act of manly honor reignited Saeed's love in my heart. By evening, I returned to my home. I had only been gone for 4 days, but it felt as if I had been away for years. A sense of longing hung over the walls. As I stepped into the house, Saeed's smiling face suddenly appeared before me, those same masculine features, that same dashing style, those same pleading eyes. My eyes filled with tears, and a deep sigh escaped my heart. I wasn't grieving over Saeed's death. No, his criminal apathy and his obsession with beauty, those are things I will never forgive. My sorrow was that this madness had overtaken him. At this moment, with the feelings in my heart, I realized that in a few days, the wounds of Saeed's betrayal and cruelty will heal, perhaps even the memory of my humiliation will fade, but the mark of his brief love will remain, and now, that is my only solace in life.
This story was originally written by Premchand, a legendary author of Hindi literature almost 100 years ago. Do let us know if you like the story. If it so happens that you did not like the story, even then, please let us know your choice so that we can find something you would like to listen. If you like the story, tell your friends as well. If you want to enjoy more stories like these from so many other Indian authors, subscribing the channel would make it easy. Bye for now.